Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Creating You Together. Last time we talked about on a wing and a prayer and what that meant spiritually, as opposed to what it said in Master Google, which was something that was of a slim chance of success. So if you've just joined and you didn't join us last week and you've got no idea what we're talking about, feel free to jump onto our Facebook page, Creating You Together. There's a download of a PDF that you can get that's got our definition in there. We're going to be delving into living on a wing and a prayer and discussing it a bit further this week. And joining us today, we have Sonia from Hong Kong. We have Orla from New Zealand. Orla's also going to be keeping an eye on your comments, so feel free to keep her busy. Feel free to share what your experiences of On a Wing and a Prayer have been. But before we get going, how about we do what we always do, which is just take a few moments to cool our jets and close our eyes and just take a few moments to breathe, to connect to ourselves, our hearts, our intuition, our guidance, to spirit, and to just be. And as we come into balance, we radiate that out and share that with the whole stunning blue world that we live on, as it may assist others also. There you go. So if you're all good and settled, we will get on with discussing this very interesting, fabulous topic of living on a wing and a prayer. During the week, we were throwing up all sorts of circumstances and saying, is this on a wing and a prayer? Is this on a wing and a prayer? A lot of things got thrown out as not on a wing and a prayer. We've had God in circles around some stuff. So feel free to share how you went last week, what you feel may be a wing and a prayer of yours. If you've got any questions about whether something may or may not be a wing and a prayer, feel free to put it in the comments and we'll put it out there and we'll see what everyone says. And in the meantime, we may share some of our experiences while you're typing away. So I'll hand over to Sonia. How's your experience been?
My experience started from Master Google definition of wing and a prayer, because I wanted to know what is wing and a prayer. To last time we talked about it and I have more understanding of what is wing and a prayer. And like you said last week, I've been pondering, is this wing and a prayer? Is this situation, that situation? And I noticed a lot of time what my experience is actually not a wing and a prayer. It's more like a prompting or following intuitions. Or sometimes I would really convinced I know it, a wing and a prayer example. But then after chatting with the ladies, and then it's like, no, I'm missing actually 1 point or 2 point, like for example, an outcome, or for example, actually a plan. So that has been my own experience. What about you, Orla?
Well, there was a couple of things that jumped out last week when we had Helen on as our guest. And what really clarified it for me was when she said it always benefits the whole. So always benefits all. That was a real aha moment. I think that was the moment that the three of us went, oh. And also that when you're asked to be of service in this way, the yes is a yes that you can't say no to. So even if it's such an absolute definite yes, that even if you have thoughts later on about, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea, it'll just holds, that yes holds. And that really helped me to be much clearer on the difference between something like a plan, for example, and being on a wing and a prayer. So I found that really helpful. And then it reminded me of many years ago when I was pregnant with my second child. I had a session with John. If you don't know who John is, you can go to johnthebeloved.com and you'll find out all about John. And anyway, in this session, he basically asked me to set up a parenting website. Now, he didn't use those words, but that's what he asked. And I just said yes, although I'd never done anything like that. And my plan was just to have my second child and just have the 2 kids. And I said, oh, yes, absolutely. And it was only when I was walking home later, I was like, what have I just said yes to? But I did go ahead and do it. And I had no idea where it was going, how it was going to come together. But that was the wing and a prayer that I kind of, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So what Helen said last week really helped me to see, oh yeah, that's what happened. That's what was happening then. Yeah. Oh, hang on. We have a little comment here from Glynis. She said, I feel I may be living on a wing and a prayer at the moment with my visa expiring and not knowing when, where, if I might be going somewhere. Yeah.
I'd say that was a wing and a prayer.
The only thing with that I come back to is that for the benefit of, is that a direct benefit to all people? So what do you think, Glynis? Do you feel like the situation you're in is about benefiting others, or could it be about your own journey? Let us know. And yeah.
Well, that's a great examples because we can all now discuss together and then explore what is more like on a wing and a prayer. Because also when I look at the questions, I'm wondering also, is there, I'm just thinking, is there an attachment to an outcome, or is there an outcome that we're looking for, hoping for? So if it's not, then it's a wing and a prayer, or we're following our intuition or prompting. So great questions, Glynis. Thank you.
I think it's a great question because, we could have a good argument over that one. I think brilliant question. I resonate with what you said, Orla, about normally your answer would be no, but when you're presented with something that under any other circumstance would be like hell no, you can't say no because the yes has come out of your mouth before you've even had a chance to say no. So
yeah, exactly.
Hi, Sarah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other circumstance that really resonated with me was about the GPS, that we've got, GPS is an external guidance system that we use. We tap in the destination and the outcome and then we follow. But each of us have an internal guidance system. And so moving into our knowing or my knowing and intuition and guidance and following that without that destination or outcome, that was something that was much clearer than from last week. That's, has this got an outcome? Am I driving and directing this? No, I'm just following piece by piece, or am I controlling this? So yeah, that back and forward's been interesting.
That was another piece as well from last week about, I think we were talking about, well, how does on a wing and a prayer work? And it was about, well, you can't know what's going to happen, but it is a step-by-step coming from your guidance. So you take the first step, and then once you've done that, you'll get maybe you might have a few coincidences that are giving you that affirmation that you're on the right path, but there's never any definite knowing. It's always like take the first step, follow the next step, and that's also very different to being in a situation where you kind of have a good idea of how you're going to get from A to B. Like a wing and a prayer is so different to that. Yeah. Now Elaine has said, taking a leap into the unknown, such as moving country without any attachment to outcomes, without knowing if it is of benefit to the whole. So Sue, do we feel that's on a wing and a prayer? Ladies and gentlemen, what do you reckon of the jury, members of the jury? Yeah, so that's a good one, actually. I'm going to leave that and say, is that, let us know, do you think that's on a wing and a prayer? And Elaine also said, sorry, so I feel I'm about to, I think she's saying to jump off the cliff without a parachute, which we also mentioned last week as well. But yeah, So, yeah.
For me, also one of the things I feel, well, what I want to ask Elaine is that she has a knowing that deep inside that she'll be taken care of, because that's what also I take from last time we talked about, is that you know that you trust you're always taken care of, that you trust that always well. You just need 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. So I want to ask Elaine, so do you feel or you trust that you're taken care of, or you just, like you said, jump off and parachute and know you will land somewhere if you land?
Glynis has come back with an answer to the question we asked her, and she said, with our soul directing, it feels it's for the benefit of all. So if it feels it's for the benefit of all, is that the same as it being for the benefit of all?
Because there's that part that's part of our own individual soul journey.
Yeah.
That can then lead to something that benefits the whole, or is it for the whole from the get-go?
Yeah, a wing and a prayer is directly benefits the whole. So if there's a piece in between, then it's more your guidance for your own soul journey.
Yeah.
But the example that Helen gave us last week of, she was asked to be a channel for John. She said yes without knowing even what a channel was. As soon as she began channeling for John, she was immediately benefiting the whole. It's that direct. So that's also something to look at when you're looking at those experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, my opinion for Glynis, I would say that's part of a soul journey that may lead elsewhere. But at that point, it's a soul journey. In that, there's following your guidance in your heart, whether it could be scary, it can be knowing, but you're doing it.
Elaine is saying here, feeling versus knowing. What can you just put a little bit more detail into that, Elaine? As in, what's the rest of that question, if you know what I mean? And then we'll come back to you, if that's okay.
I feel I'm really loving these discussions. I think we're having a lot of discussions going on. So I mean, like, not only Glynis and Elaine can comment. I think everybody, if you wish, chip in so we can have more experience, because we also like what we're doing is what, even whether you know or not, actually we all on a wing and a prayer at the moment.
Yeah. So we had a couple of examples of what is an individual journey, because part of it was that we're not in our comfort zone. We're stepping out of where we would normally keep ourselves safe. We're jumping off a cliff. We don't know where we're going to land. So starting something new, like a course was an example, was one thing that we kind of debated about back and forward. And we also had another example of, Sonia, do you want to share the World War?
Yes, I was just asking, like, the others, like, is people who helping others. For example, let's take the World War II example. So there are people hiding, the Jewish people, to keep them safe. Is it a wing and a prayer? So what's your opinion? What did the audience think or feel? Is it a wing and a prayer? So that's what we have been chit-chatting about and exploring.
Marianne is saying it's a collaboration with spirit, definitely. Superheroes turn up in your life to help you take the next step. It's like you're not in charge, but just trust the journey. You're definitely not in charge. When you say superheroes, are you talking Superman, or are we talking spirits? Let me know. And Elaine, sorry, here comes Elaine's. Has said, our comments are that we feel we are to go this way. Whatever that is, we can't argue or ignore. Perhaps that's actually a knowing.
Yeah.
Definitely
So if we're so used to, for example, plugging our destination into the GPS and having a plan and having an outcome, and this is what we're going to do, and we do it in a way that keeps us safe and secure, and how do we get from that kind of emotional, logical, keep safe way of being into our hearts and knowing and trusting.
Yeah, I feel it goes back to it's step by step. Instead of doing your usual thing that we all do, which is thinking it through and working it out and trying to make it all come together, that it's a whole other way of being. So it's trusting that we're being guided and that our higher self knows everything and is leading the way, and just taking the step and trusting that we can just take the step and see what happens. And because, as Helen said last week, those steps you start to get those coincidences and a little bit of magic that turns up, that gives you the confidence to keep moving forward. So that's what I feel. I don't know what you guys out there feel. How do you not go into all the emotional stuff and the judgmental stuff? And actually go with not your gut, your guidance. Sarupa says it's compassion and service, maybe. Definitely both, I feel. What do you girls think?
In what context?
Yeah, I was thinking in what context?
Is that something that you felt you were guided to do as part of your soul journey, or something that you jumped off a cliff and that's what came out of it? What context is that in?
Marianne is coming back. I feel if people are helping others in the underground during the wars so they don't die, they trust their higher self to look after things for the highest good. Superheroes collaborate together. But Marianne, do you feel that so are you saying that you feel that is on a wing and a prayer, or you feel that it's something else? What do you reckon? Oh, Sarupa said that was to the war question. Sarupa was responding to the World War II question, compassion and service, as opposed to on a wing and a prayer. I'm, again, making assumptions. Never a good idea to make assumptions. Mandy says, perhaps we're taking a jump off a cliff in our own journey for a purpose we don't know as yet, to build the strength and trust in something bigger in you, and then that opens the door. So taking a jump off a cliff on our own journey.
As part of our own soul journey, yeah.
Yes, that's you're back to, is that about us moving on our own soul journey, or are we moving just completely in service? Something just came into my head there, sorry, was when Helen was saying when you're on a wing in a prayer, of myself I do nothing. So you remember she talked about that? So you're just there. Your purpose is pretty much just to be there and to follow the guidance. Yeah.
Because I want to ask Mandy also, is when she talk about it, is this for, like Anita says, for your own personal journey, or just for your own, or that is like a greater service, or to other people? That's like because also we keep repeating, is that is something for the others that we don't know. Like we will just be there, but because we're there, something change for others, we don't know. So that's great question. Thank you, Mandy. I'm like constantly, wow, yeah, maybe not. Very, very interesting. And for the World War, at the beginning, I feel, I think it is. I think it is on a wing and a prayer, because they don't know how it's going to end. However, what is actually want to do? They actually want to save those people. So that is the outcome. So what do you all feel about that? When there's an outcome, when there's even you want to do good for the greater good, like when it's an outcome, is that still on a wing and a prayer?
I'd say for me, that would be because there is a plan and a destination and an intent that has come from them, that it's not on a wing and a prayer, that it's part of service, compassion, part of their journey. Yes, it's helped people, no question. I feel because there's a plan and a desired outcome, that at that point makes it not on a wing and a prayer, because on a wing and a prayer, you have got no idea about the outcome.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. You can't even, you wouldn't be even at a point to know if something was to go either way, because it just doesn't exist with regards to an outcome.
The other thing that came up was about the younger generation being on a wing and a prayer. Sonia, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit from Helen's last week.
Yes. What I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, what is on this whole new generations, they operate on a wing and a prayer, because there's no, I mean, for the older generation, maybe easier because there's a foundation within them. But for this younger generation, everything is new and nobody has experienced this before. So we're talking about like how they are operating under the wing and the prayers, and also from the older generation, a little bit older generation, how we can assist them, or how we can, not even assist them, but how we can, if they come to us, if a younger generation come to us and ask us to chat, how we can help them. That's my questions.
Yeah, it was last Monday, Helen, on the JTB community YouTube page, they were talking about healing our hearts, and they were talking about the younger generation and social media. And then it's just the realization that they are all living in a wing and a prayer, but they have been so connected to the emotions, to the emotional side and the mental side of things, because that's what social media feeds you. How does somebody who knows more emotional stuff learn to connect to guidance? Because they're on a wing and a prayer, because I mean, it's difficult not being a teenager. Imagine being a teenager during a global pandemic. And that it was just for me, it was a real eye opener of, like that's challenging. That's really challenging to know how to go from one way of being to a completely new way of being, and how we can, how they get there. So I don't know what everybody out there thinks in terms of how they do that, but they really are living. I mean, they're just all living on a wing and a prayer, a whole generation.
Yeah, because in Hong Kong, the schools closed since January, and they reopened for a couple of weeks. So if you talk about like almost like 7 or 8 months, there's no school, they're just home learning. So it's like nobody have experienced that before. So first, do they need help, or are they enjoying? Maybe we just assume that they are having a problem. They may be having a great time staying home, don't need to wake up early in the morning to go to school. So, and also how we can help them on their journey.
Elaine is saying us being able to stand our ground and be in our hearts and not feed into the drama of it as role models. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one way of doing it. Sarupa has a question: is a wing and a prayer really only known in hindsight, as otherwise your logic and emotions kick in? I don't think so, because if you're living on a wing and a prayer, it's so different to living the way you would used to live. I think it'd be hard not to know it. What do you reckon?
I feel you definitely know it, because you do not have a known outcome. So as Helen said a couple of weeks ago, it can be exhilarating and frightening at the same time. You are living on the edge of who you're being, you're uncomfortable, and you're connected with your knowing. And with regards to the kids or the younger generation, or when, the way we operate is very emotional or logical, for me, the thing that has stuck out from what we've been talking about is about how on a wing and a prayer is such a heart-based, knowing, trusting, and I think that can be really challenging when the world seems to have gone mad around you, when we've got social media that's always very much a distraction. So my feeling is that, if we can take that time to be present and aware and connect with ourselves and go into our hearts, that's my feeling, or the most I've taken out of what we've been talking about. So having said that, if there are any other comments, if not, I'll give you some information about next week. Helen on Monday the 24th will be talking about healing our hearts on an emotional level. And you can find the information on John the Beloved Facebook page. There'll be information, and you can also join the conversation on YouTube, JTB Community. And we will say thank you for joining us tonight. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time on the 31st of July.
August.
So
August.
August. The world's gone mad. I've gone
Don't
mad
take
with
us
it.
back in time. Don't take us back in time, please.
Who knows what day, month, year it is anymore? It's all just a big blur. But in the meantime, feel free to add in the comments what your experiences are, any questions you may have, your opinions, especially if you disagree, because it may be something that we haven't considered yet. Love to hear about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.